Welcome to the Innovation Squadcast, making a positive difference in learning through innovation. Welcome to the Innovation Squadcast, and thanks for making us a part of your educational journey. As the school year wraps up, many educators find themselves facing unique challenges, whether you're moving to a new school, retiring, or simply preparing for a fresh start next year. In this episode, we'll provide you with strategies you need to organize your Google Drive effectively, and we'll cover how to ensure your important files don't disappear during transitions, how to streamline your content for easy sharing in Schoology next year, and tips for maintaining a clutter-free, efficient workspace. Join us as we tackle these crucial end-of-the-year tasks and set you up for success in the upcoming school year. All right, I am Pam Hebler.
And I am Eileen Fernandez-Parker.
And we are Innovative Learning Coordinators in Berkeley County School District. And this time of year, we always get questions from teachers about how to save their files from their Google Drive. Maybe they have to move, or maybe they're retiring, or really they just want to get organized. So we figured we'd do an end of the year podcast on best practices. So we'll go ahead and get started. All right. First thing, my drive and shared drives. Yes. I liked it better when they used to have team drives because shared drives and
shared with me.
Yes, and a drive that's shared with you, like it's just too close. But anyway, so my drive, that just refers to the personal storage space associated with your Google account. It's where you can create, upload, store files, including docs, sheets, slides, images, and more. Yes. And then My Drive just allows you to organize your files into folders, share them with others, and collaborate in real time. So, and then shared drives. Yes. What's a shared drive, Eileen?
So shared drives were created because people would leave a job, not necessarily education, and all of their files would disappear when their account was closed out.
Right.
And that was devastating for the peers. People who worked with them needed those files. So they came up with shared drives, and it really, team drive is a better way of thinking about it, because when you upload your file to a shared drive, you no longer own that copy of it. So make sure that you make a copy of anything you want to put in the shared drive, so you still have, you can still do a quick download or move it somewhere else. So because the drive, the team owns that file, whoever uploaded it, when they leave, the file is still there. It does not disappear. Yes. And so critical information should always be on a shared drive, because if you lose critical information, you're really in trouble.
Right. Yeah, that's a huge thing, especially if you are an administrator or an instructional coach or somebody that really manages documents for an entire school. Yeah. The shared drives is the best way to manage it, because whoever is the manager of that drive, you can add members, you can decide whether they can edit, whether they can delete, you can change all that stuff.
Right. So it's the sharing rights that you give out within that team drive it's very important, because if a person is a content manager, they could conceivably delete things from there. So it's very important, if you're using a shared drive, to do some research first to make sure you give the correct rights to people.
Right. So let's start with just sharing in Google Drive in general. Because when you have anything in Google Drive, and of course, when you log into your Google account, you can click on the waffle, you can see Google Drive. It's that little triangle looking icon. And a lot of people use it and don't even realize they use it. I always like to call Google Drive the file cabinet of all things Google. Because if you go to docs.google, those are all your Google Docs, but they're still technically in your drive.
Right.
Same with slides, same with sheets, all that kind of stuff.
I call Drive your garage, and then you have to get organized inside it. Yes. So your folders are your boxes or your filing cabinet
that
drawers.
Makes sense. Yeah. All right. So, and then if you, and I think a lot of teachers notice this, especially when they're sharing things in Schoology and then like kids can't get to it, and it's because you haven't shared it. You create it, but then if it's not shared, they can't access it. So there's restricted, which means it's only you, which is fine. Because if you have documents you don't need other people to see, they can stay restricted. Right. And then there's the Berkeley County School District, which means that you can share it with anybody within the district, but they have to have a bcsdschools.net email account. And then there's anyone with a link. So if you need to share it with anybody, whether it's a parent, anybody outside the district, then you do want it to be anyone with a link. And then within that, they can be viewers, a commenter, an editor. And so there's a couple different options, and we do have a lot of screenshots in the show notes. Yeah. So if you're not 100% sure and you're just listening, just look at the show notes. We put a lot in this one because there's a lot of information.
And if I could just say one thing about commenting rights, that when I was an English teacher, I realized very quickly that when I taught students to share with one another, to edit, to peer edit, sometimes the student who owned the file didn't know that the peer had changed something in it because they were given full editing rights.
Oh, instead of commenting.
So if you give commenting rights, all changes show up in a bright color. Okay. So that's super important.
Okay. All right. So then if we're talking about somebody having to actually save their files, we like to tell people the best thing is to go ahead and use Google Takeout. And Jimmy, who is producing for us today, can show on the screen. You can go to Google Takeout by just typing takeout.google.com. And it literally is a step-by-step. And Eileen, I know you said when you like to use this, you have very specific things you like to do.
Yes. So I'm going to let you all benefit from my mistake. The first time I did this, there are 68 different items that you can pick from. So I just went down and I checked off, because at that time I was in a different district. We were using Google Classroom, so I checked off Google Classroom. I checked off Google Sites.
So you deselect.
So
first,
yes,
right?
You deselect
at the very
first,
top
because you don't want all 68.
Deselect all.
So deselect in the top right, and then as you scroll down, you want to only check one item and then export, instead of checking all of the possible things you might want, because when I just exported my drive, it's 10 folders just by itself. So when I checked off my email and my drive and my calendar and Google Classroom, it was literally like 36 folders. So then when I switched districts and I had to find something, it wasn't organized. So I had to open up every file, unzip every file. I had to buy an external drive because it was like, 2 terabytes of information. Anyway, just make sure you select one and then scroll all the way to the bottom. Jimmy, can you scroll? And I just want to give you the right terminology. Once you select one of them, you're going to hit next step. And then you're going to choose what file type you want it to be. And you want to make sure that you choose the zipped file.
So we have a couple options. That send download link. You can choose. Can you click on that? Download. You've got the add to Dropbox, add to OneDrive, or add to Box. I'm not even sure what that is.
Yeah. No, me too. I think that's an option. Will you click off of that, Jimmy? So
that's only for
send
email.
Download link via email. So that's what you need to know. It'll send you an email saying your downloads are ready for to download. And then you can choose to export once, which is what we're doing at the end of the year. But if you have a lot of files, you might need to do it. It says you can do it 2 months for 1 year, which is going to be 6 exports. So for me, that's too much. So choose zip file, then choose your file size. I chose 10 gigabytes per folder. So there's
it's not huge.
Fewer folders that I have to open. I wouldn't go to the 50 gigabytes. That would be humongous, because that's going to open up on your laptop. And if you don't have the room to look at it, you can't open it.
And some people will just use an external hard drive or a personal Google account. There's a couple of different ways that you can choose, but you could follow the directions, which is good, step by step, and then.
Right. And then when you hit create export, it's just going to tell you that you will send you an email when it's ready. It's very fast. Like I had those emails within like 3 to 5 minutes. They were done.
Yeah. And now once you have that, okay, so you're retiring and you still want some of those files, or you have to move. I know we have a lot of like military families and things like that,
Right.
where it's like mom's a teacher, dad's a teacher, whatever, have to move, but you still are going to be teaching. So you still want those files. So if you have that, then from there, you want to make sure that all your Google stuff is shared with the right people that are still going to be in our district.
Right.
So that's a huge thing. So in the show notes, we have to change ownership of your files. So one, you can transfer ownership to like individual files. Or you can move entire folders into the shared drive. So that way, automatically, all those things are switched over to Berkeley County School District as the owner, but then the person that is in the actual Google Drive, the shared drive, can access it and it won't change anything, which is huge.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So, and let's see, Jimmy, can you go to My Drive? And then on the left where it says shared drive, so there's My Drive, and then underneath there, that is shared drives. And then you can, is one of those yours? Let's see. Okay, click on your test one just to see. All right, so if you click on a drive, you can actually click on the gear on the top right-hand side next to the title of the shared drive, where it says, like Jimmy's showing us one that says test.
The drop-down menu.
And then you can see manage members. If I click on manage members, then I can add, let's say, you can put me on there if you want, Jimmy. If I just put somebody I know is going to be at the school, whether it's an admin or an instructional coach or something like that.
Or a department chair, or
exactly.
a grade level
somebody
chair.
you know that will still be in the school. You want them to be a content manager, because content, or actually really a manager. You can have multiple people as a manager, but we have the options. A manager can manage content, people, and settings. The content manager, which is a level, well, here it's up, but below, they can add, edit, move, delete, or share the content. Then there are some that are just contributors. So like a contributor, if they only need to add, edit, or share files, like you don't want them to delete or anything like that, but you want them to have basically regular Google Drive access. They can do that, and then commenter, and then viewer.
Yeah.
Generally, teachers are going to be either a content manager or a contributor.
Right.
But you definitely want to make sure that somebody else is a manager in there with you, so that way when you're no longer there, somebody can still add members and do all that kind of stuff. Because we've had that where when I was at Daniel Island as an instructional coach and then I left, I was a manager of the DIS folder or shared drive. And so I had to make sure that somebody else, the new instructional coach or somebody, was also a manager, so that way they could add new people to it.
Right.
So it was luckily I wasn't going anywhere, but that's still, if you're switching from one school to another, you got to make sure that your settings are properly
If I had to choose, I'd probably give the majority of people contributor access.
Yes.
Just because they can't delete things. Because it's always better to have 2 copies than no copy.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah, so I know it can be a little confusing, but the shared drive is a really helpful way to not lose any of the content for other people in your school.
Right.
All right, so, and then let's go back to My Drive, because I think we may have skipped.
Let's show how to transfer ownership.
Yes, good point. Yeah, just in My Drive. So if we have a folder, Jimmy, do you have a folder you don't mind messing with?
Like test 5 from
There you go.
2021.
Okay, so we just opened a Google Drive folder. And if you also, again, at the top, if you click on the little gear and then go to share, you've got the little plus with the share. And when you click on that, it gives you, let's say if you put my name in there, right now, one person is the owner. When you add somebody else, you can click editor, and they have to already be an editor in it in order to change ownership. So go ahead and add me to that, Jimmy. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so they already have to be in the folder. Now, if you go back to that little arrow to the right, this is hard if you're just listening to it,
right.
But and go to share. Once they are in the folder, then if you click on the little caret, the arrow next to it, then you can see, if you scroll down, you've got viewer, commenter, you're already an editor, but then you have the option to transfer ownership. And that's what you do want to do. Now, you don't need to do that, Jimmy. But if you are sharing that folder, you want to make sure that you do that, transfer it to that person that you know is going to stay. The only thing is you still have to do the documents inside the folder. So it is a time-consuming task to just share ownership this way.
So when you make them editors of the folder, they're not automatically editors of everything in it?
They're editors, but they wouldn't be an owner. So, like, technically they would have to also be an owner.
So that it doesn't disappear
Exactly.
when your account is deleted.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and I know there are ways that they do keep some of the files. I think you have like 30 days or something like that where you can still access it. But it is a little challenging.
Yeah. So one of the easiest ways that I have found is to just download that folder.
Yeah.
And then re-upload it,
right.
Because then you own everything in it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
And so I wouldn't hit every file and change ownership. That's just it takes too long. It does
take a while. I've also downloaded things onto my desktop before, and then taken the whole folder and added it to Drive.
Right, that's what I mean.
So that way, the only thing is you have to make sure that you have your Google Drive set up where if you have like Word documents and things like that, that'll automatically switch to Google Docs.
Right.
So.
But even if it won't, Google allows you to edit Word documents and they remain Word documents. So it's not like you'll lose the content. You still can edit and work and collaborate inside it. I love how inclusive Google is.
Yes.
But then if you needed to make it a Google file, then you can just go to File, Open as Google Docs. And you'll be good to go.
Yeah. So really the most important thing is just make sure that those important folders, files are shared with the right people.
Yes.
And that they are owners of it as well. So that way, if you're no longer at that school or no longer, in the district because you've retired, that's our only way. You can only leave if you're retired. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so just make sure that stuff is shared because it's sad in the beginning of the year when you go to use all that stuff that you created together as a team and you can't find it or links that you used to have. It says that it
doesn't exist.
So, so that's the biggest thing. Are we missing something else? Let's see. I know we've got other things.
So the easiest thing really is to create a shared drive and drag things into it.
Yes, that's the easiest way to do it.
And then if you can't do that or if you don't have the permissions to make one, then we would recommend changing ownership and having that person download to their desktop and then upload to their drive.
Yeah, and then the only other thing I would say is in Google Drive, that section that says shared with me, don't try to delete and clean things up before you move to another school or move out of the district or anything like that, because all that's telling you is the activity within your Google Drive. So don't clean it up. Just leave it. Just ignore it.
Because all you have are shortcuts to other people's files.
Exactly.
So you can delete it, but it's not going to affect it anywhere else. And you're just wasting your time trying to organize it and trying to clean it up. Just ignore it. Especially if you're OCD, just don't open it.
No.
Don't open that door.
Because it will show things from ever since you started using it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So don't do that. And then let's see. I think that's basically it. So, and the biggest thing, if you need any help, there is a Google support site, and we do have it linked on the show notes. And then, of course, me and Eileen, we're both Google certified trainers, so we could talk about Google all day. So you can always reach out to us or reach out to your ILC if you really need help before you have to transfer anything to make sure you're doing it right. We're here to help out. So
now, is there anything that we want to cover for moving important things into Schoology?
As far as Google stuff?
Yeah. Did we mention that?
Yeah, I didn't really think about that. I guess as long as you have the items shared where somebody else can edit and their owner, then it should still be okay.
Okay.
And I guess the biggest thing for Schoology would just be, and I know we're going to do an end of the year Schoology wrap up, but to not delete courses.
Right.
But that'll be a Schoology podcast.
Got it.
Because that can cause some issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I think that's enough to be dangerous, right?
I think so. I think those are some really good tips.
Yeah.
Because you might not be affected by this because you're not leaving, but one of your grade level partners might be. And so you want to make sure that if they haven't heard the podcast, that you share that super important information with them to save everybody.
Yes, exactly. That way in the beginning of the school year, you're ready to go. And I mean, that is the only other thing. When you're saving these things, make sure that if you want to organize it ahead of time or get rid of things ahead of time, maybe the school doesn't need it, then to kind of clean it up then. And so that way it's a little easier in the beginning of the school year.
Yes.
So, so hopefully that will help everybody. So thank y'all for tuning in. We hope you found today's episode insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to check out the show notes for a bunch of resources, links to the podcast video and the Innovation Squadcast PD available in Unified Talent. Got a little bit more time for that for this school year. And then, of course, stay connected. Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And we want to hear from you. So we're starting our list for even next school year. Yeah. So if there are things that we didn't really talk about this year and you have some ideas, let us know. We'd love to hear it. And then until next time, keep innovating. Bye.
Bye.